Morning all of you. So today our topic is getting to know plants. Okay, now you all know what are plants. Okay, so we'll talk about the plants, how the plants work, how many types of plants are there, the categories of plants. Okay, so first one is herbs. First we'll talk about herbs. Now what are herbs? Plants with green and tender stems. The plants which are very short in size, they have a very soft stem, tender stem. They are usually short and not have many branches. They are also used for food, flavoring, medicines. Okay, now what are herbs? Herbs are basically very short plants which is basically used for the medicine, for the medicinal purposes, for eating as well. So they are the smallest kind of plants, the very short plants, those who are having a very soft tender stems, they are called herbs. This is a type of a category of plant. Okay, this is a type of a plant. Next is shrubs. Now what are shrubs? The shrubs are basically when you go to a nearby a park, you have seen there are kind of shrubs are there, means they are called shrubs. Now shrubs have a stem branching out near the base. The stem is hard but not very thick. Such plants are called shrubs. An area of cultivated shrub in a park or a garden is a shrubbery. Okay, now what are shrubs? Shrubs are little harder than the herbs. Herbs are the softest kind of plant and shrubs are a little harder kind of plant. They have a hard stem, brown stem, and here is a picture you can see. Shrubs are basically there in your parks. When you go through a park or when you go from a highways or roads, you see that there are plants planted over there in the middle of the road. So they are a kind of shrubs because they have a hard and brown stems. Next is trees. Now what are trees? Some plants are very tall. You all know what are trees. A very long brown stem having a thick stem, brown stem. The stems and branches are from the upper side and above from the ground. Such plants are called trees. They tend to be more live long. Some reaches several thousand years old. Means they have a very, they lives up to 200 years, 300 years like this. Okay, they have a several years. Their lifespan is very long because they are very big in size. And their stems are their branches are very strong, their trunk is very strong, the stem is very strong, there are so many branches, roots are very strong, and they have a hard stems. So these are the three categories of plants: herbs, shrubs and trees. After that we will talk about creepers and climbers. Now what are creepers and climbers? These are the climbers. Now what are climbers? Plants that take support on neighboring structure and climb are called climbers, and plants have a weak stem that cannot stand straight and spread on the ground are called creepers. Now what are climbers? Climbers take the support of the neighbor. For example, this stick. If we put this stick on a soil, what they will do? They will start growing on this stick. Okay. If we put a wall, if there is a supporting wall on that, they will start growing on that wall. So they take support of the neighbor. They take the support of anyone to grow on that. So they are climbers. The plants which take support of the neighboring thing or neighboring structure and climb on are called the climbers. And creepers are plants those who are having the weak stem. The stems are very weak and they cannot stand straight. So they start spreading on the ground. For example, this pumpkin plant, watermelon plant, they spreading on the ground only. They don't have the strength to grow straight. They don't have the capacity to grow straight. So they start growing on the ground only. So they are called creepers. There is a difference. Climbers take support of its neighboring structure. They are called climbers. For example, pea plant, money plant. And creepers, those whose stems are very weak and they cannot stand straight. The stem helps the water and minerals to go to the leaves and other plant parts attached to the stem through narrow. Now the main function is of stem. The stem helps the plant to stand straight. For example, they have a narrow tubes in them, inside them, so that they just support the whole plant to grow. The plant parts which are attached to the stem, for example a fruit, you can say flowers, leaves, they all help, the stem helps them to stand straight, and also they transport the minerals and water. The stems also helps to transport the minerals and water to the whole plants, to the whole of the plant, because you all know that that is a living thing only. So how they transport the food to whole of the body. So the stem takes all the nutrients, minerals, water from the soil and transport it to the different parts of their body. Next is now leaf. The part of a leaf by which it is attached to the stem is called petiole. Now the broad green part of a leaf is a lamina, and the lines on the leaf are called veins, and the thick middle vein is called midrib. The design made by veins is the leaf is called a leaf. Now you can see this picture. Let me tell you what is a, first we'll talk about petiole. Means the part of a leaf that is attached to the stem. Now from which part the stem is being attached? This part. This part is the petiole because of this green stem. So the part which are attached to the plant, this is a petiole, and veins. First we'll talk about petiole. What is petiole? The plant part which is attached to the stem. Now this is a stem, this is a part which is attached to the whole tree. So this is a petiole. Next is the green part of a leaf. Okay, now this green part is called lamina. Okay, the lines on a leaf are called veins. These small kind of structure you can see, have you ever if you ever seen a leaf, you can see there's a small structures of lines. These are called veins. And the what are midrib? Midrib is the middle vein. This middle vein is called midrib of a leaf. Okay, the design made by veins is the leaf. This is the structure of leaf: petiole, lamina, veins and midrib. Okay, now next you can see in this picture about the veins and the petiole. Next is transpiration. Now what do you mean by transpiration? The process of transporting the minerals and water to the whole plant is basically called transpiration. When the leaves you all know that the stem take the minerals and water from the soil, it transport to the whole plant. So that process is called, basically it goes in the form of vapor only. They take the water from the soil, and excessive water which is not needed by that plant is go through in the form of vapor, which is go through in a form of vapor. That process is called transpiration. That excess water which goes in a form of water vapor, that process that is called transpiration. Now the presence of sunlight and a green color substance present in them, for this they use water and carbon dioxide from air. So the process is called photosynthesis. Oxygen is given out in this process. The food prepared by the leaves ultimately in a form of glucose only. Now you all know what is photosynthesis. The photosynthesis is a process of making the food by their own, because they are the autotrophs, producers, you can say. Green plants are the producers or autotrophs because they are not dependent on anyone. They make their own food with the help of sunlight, with the help of CO2 and water, in the presence of chlorophyll. So that process is called photosynthesis, and they just release out the oxygen which we take. photosynthesis, just release the oxygen, they take carbon dioxide which we release, and they release oxygen at the time of photosynthesis. Now we'll talk about roots. Types of root. There are two types of roots, taproot and fibrous root. Now taproot, I have told you that what are taproot. In a plant with a taproot system, the taproot is the largest, most central and the most dominant root from which other roots sprout laterally. Because as I told you that their upper part is thicker than their lower part. Their upper part is thicker than their lower part. In this there are two types of roots. This is a lateral root you can see, and this is the taproot. And in fibrous root, they grow from a fibrous root system is usually formed by thin, moderately small branch. In this plant there is small fiber-like structure are grown from the roots, so they are moderately branching roots growing from the stem. They are very thin form, very fiber-like structure will grow from each stem. You can see in this picture, so this forms a fibrous root and this is a taproot. Next is flower. Now we will talk about flowers. A flower is a reproductive structure found in the reproductive part of the prominent part of the open flower are the petals. You all know what are petals. These leaf-like structure, the open area is called petals and the small leaf-like structure are called the sepals. Now the small leaf-like structure, these are the petals and the small part are the sepals. Now parts of a plant. Now we will talk about there are so many parts in a single flower also. First is the stamen. Now what is a stamen? The stamen is the pollen producing reproductive organ of a flower. A stamen is a pollen means there are small seeds in them in a form that seeds are the pollen producing reproductive organ of a pistil and ovule producing part of a flower. The part which produces a flower, that part is called pistil. That part is called pistil. What is a stamen? Stamen is a small pollen, means small balls like structure are present on a flower. They are called stamen. This is a reproductive organ of a flower, and pistil, a ovule producing part, means which produces the flower, from which part the flower is actually produced, that part is called pistil. Next is part of a stamen. Now anther. If we talk about anther, there are 5 parts in this flower. First is anther. What is anther? You can see in this picture, here is the picture. This is a stigma. This is a pistil, style, ovary. This part is ovule. This is a anther, filament, sepal. This is stamen part. This is a pistil part. First we talk about anther. Now what is anther? A part of this stamen where pollen is produced. Anther, the part where the pollen, what is pollen? I have told you the small balls which are present there are the pollen. Okay, so the pollen is the part of the stamen where pollen is produced, where the pollen is produced, that part is called anther. After that, filament. The filament is a stalk that connects to the anther. Means, where is anther? This is a anther where the pollen seeds actually stored. This is this part here. This is an anther part. After that, filament. A filament is a stalk that connects to the anther. This part connects to the anther, and the part which connects the anther is called filament. This connectivity is called the filament. Next is style. What is style? This is a long slender stalk that connects the stigma and the ovary. Style. This is a style. This middle part is the style. What is the work of this style? It is a long slender stalk that connects the stigma and the ovary. That connects the stigma and the ovary. Now what is stigma and what is ovary? Stigma, it is a sticky top of the style. It is the sticky platform at the top of the style where pollen is deposited. Where pollen after the reproduction, where the pollen is being deposited at which place, that part is called stigma. That part is called stigma. Means in here, this thick part of the style at the top of the style, this is the stigma part where after the pollen grains is deposited. Next, ovary, the enlarged based portion of a pistil where ovules are produced. This part is ovary, the middle part is ovary. Here the enlarged, this is the enlarged base, means this base is the biggest part of this whole part where all of the pistil, where ovules are produced, where the reproduction is being held. So these are some parts, these are the 5 parts of a plant, that is anther, filament, style, stigma and ovary. Anther is where the pollen grains is being produced. Filament, which connect, the filament is a stalk which connects it to the anther. Style, it is the long slender stalk that connects the stigma and ovary. Stigma is a platform at the top of the style where pollen is deposited, and ovary, the enlarged basal portion of a pistil where ovules are produced. The soft green part of the plant is called herbs. They are usually short and may not have many branches. They are also used for food flavoring, for medicines. They are the soft kind of plants. We are just recalling the chapter. Shrubs which you see around the roads, in sides of the roads, or sometimes on the highways as well, on the between of the highways, on the parks, nearby parks. They are called shrubs. They have a little hard kind of branches, and they are being cultivated near the parks, and that is called shrubberry. They are called shrubberry. After that, trees. You all know what are trees? A very tall and thick stem. Their stems and branches are on the upper part. They are above the ground. Such plants are called trees. Now they can be lived long, means their lifespan is very long, and they have several thousand years. They live for several thousand years. Climbers and creepers. What are climbers? I have told you the difference between a climbers and a creepers. Climbers are plants that take the support of the neighboring plants, means which is dependent for their growth on the neighboring plant. For example, on the wall, they take the support of wall, or they take a help of a stick, you can say, like this you can say. So they are climbers. And what are creepers? The plants which have a weak stem. They cannot stand straight, so they start growing on the ground only. They start growing on a ground only. They are called creepers. The example of creepers are pumpkin and watermelon, and the example of climbers are pea plant, money plant. After that is the stem. What is a stem? Which connects or transport the mineral and water to the whole plant. Means the stem takes the roots take the soil, and so they takes the minerals and water and transport it to the different parts of their body. Leaf. Now leaf has a different type of different parts. That is petiole, lamina, veins and midrib, which we have talked about. Here is the picture of these After that, the process of transpiration means the excess water which is left with the plant, which is go through in a form of a vapor. That process is called transpiration. After that, we'll talk about photosynthesis. You all by the plants with the help of the sunlight, CO2, water, and in the presence of chlorophyll, and they release oxygen at the time of photosynthesis. This is a picture of roots. Now roots, there are two types of root, taproot and fibrous root. Taproot have a biggest, largest, most central and most dominant root from which the roots sprout laterally, and fibrous roots are usually formed with a thin fiber-like structure moderate from the branching roots growing from the stem. Next is flowers. What are flowers? Flowers is a reproductive structure found in the plant. Now this is a most prominent part of the open plant. There are two types of two parts on a flower, that is petal and sepals. After that, parts of a plant which I have told you, stamen and pistil. Stamen is a pollen producing reproductive organ of a plant, which this part of the flower, and pistil is the ovule producing part of a flower, which is known as the pistil. After that, the parts of a plant we will talk about. That there are 5 parts I have told you about, that is anther, filament, style, stigma and ovary. Anther, the part of a plant which grows where pollen is produced. After that, filament, the filament is the third is style. It is a long slender stalk that connects the stigma. This all for the chapter. Thank you.